Welcome, everyone. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of HRIA. My name's Rick Love, and I'm hosting the Builders Panel this morning. And we really appreciate y'all taking time out of your day to come visit with us. And so we're going to get started right away. First, I'm going to start off and introduce everybody. And we tried to get a pretty diverse panel here so we can have some, and then after we introduce everybody, what we're going to do is give you an opportunity to ask questions right off the bat. Last year we kind of ran out of time and there was a bunch of questions that didn't get answered, so we'll give everybody an opportunity to ask their questions first off. So as soon as we introduce everybody, here in the senior member's chair is Bobby Alloway from Alloway's Hot Rod Shop. That's what Brian told me.
Well, that's true. That is true.
And we try to get a little mix of businesses. Bobby's shop just basically does ground up hot rod builds. They don't do a lot of small jobs. Everything you do is pretty much a ground up build.
It is. Yes, it is.
And next to Bobby is Alan Johnson from Johnson's Hot Rod Shop. And Alan's pretty much the same as Bobby, does complete builds more than anything else, but also Alan does some race cars as well for Bonneville, so they do some race cars and trucks as well and everything. And Alan got his start in the Volkswagen market, so he's unlike Bobby, he didn't start with Volkswagens too much.
They didn't make Volkswagen. You were going to say it anyway.
And next now we have Troy Trepanier from Rad Rides. Troy, you do a little everything, race cars, full builds, modifications, all of that and everything, and the deal. And on the end we have Jim and Mike Ring, and they're a little different from the rest of them. In more ways than one, they're a little different from the rest of them. But they also have a fully functional collision shop in addition to their hot rod building. So you have one that makes money and then one that you have fun with, probably, basically, is what it comes down to. But I think everybody's pretty aware of all these guys. So does anybody have any questions for anybody before we start?
I'd like to say one thing. For the people who were here last year, you got to see someone for the last time.
Yes.
And that was Pete Shapores. Every time we've done this, he's been here, and he was a great friend of ours, and we sure do miss him.
We were talking before this, that it's going to be very unusual. Every one of these we've done has been with Pete, who was a great friend of all of us. Yeah, he did. And it was obvious that Pete really enjoyed doing these, and it's very odd for us to be here without Pete. And yeah, we miss him every day.
And I'm the oldest now.
See, that's right. That's right. So, does anybody have any questions they want to start with? If not, I've got some, but does anybody have anything they wanted to ask of everybody? I guess we could start then asking, the first thing is, how's the business changed for y'all? Now, what are you seeing in business change? We talked about that yesterday a little bit. How are you seeing businesses change a little bit now?
Well, the business change with us is just the your model of cars. I mean, it's went from, if we'd have stayed building street rods, we'd have been out of business probably. I mean, it has slacked off, and I love them, don't get me wrong, but we've had to move to the 50s, 60s cars, even into the 70s.
There's a lot more stuff out there, obviously, with social media and stuff. That's the biggest change, because we're not very good at that part of it. We stay out of it, and our website's not much, but kind of we do it more like, whether it's right or wrong, like we did in the early days with Bobby and Boyd, and when we all started in Posey, and when it was Run to See the Hot Rod magazine. So definitely everything's apparent now. You can see that by walking around the show floor. I mean, it's just, you can't even move. It's great. I mean, there's a lot of growth, obviously, and a lot of young guys in here. You'll see somebody build a car, you walk by and you're like, gosh, that's really nice, and I've never even heard of them. So it's definitely a lot more people in the game, that's for sure.
You were telling me about social media in Tennessee. That was the fax machine, right? That's what you told me, Rick.
Got my back, Larry.
Y'all, Mike and Jim, y'all do a lot with social media on your end. You contract through an outside firm.
We do. Con Media handles our social media. I think it's a big part of business. Obviously, our business is our parts side of our business is a side we're really working at growing, and it's important with social media. Obviously, the cars, you're exactly right. These cars are, I think it's almost to the point where if you show up with something stranger than last year, they actually might like it. Yeah. Been a lot of Camaro's done, a lot of Chevelle's done. It's definitely changing.
Who'd have thought you'd be doing a javelin?
Yeah,
We
well,
thought about doing a javelin a few years
Yeah,
ago.
it's,
Thought about that. To the level that you're doing now.
Yeah.
That's something
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I think everybody likes to do different things. And
I know, because y'all are tracking your stuff daily, pretty much, aren't you, as far as taking photos of the cars, pretty much? I know, Troy, y'all are doing that.
Yep.
too.
Yeah, you have to, all the customers are, most of them aren't there, so, and it's, that's the one thing that is nice that we don't do a good job of sometimes is, and some of the customers, like I'm sure, everybody up here is the same, but some of our guys are private and they don't want the stuff out there. We've run into that a lot lately. And, but it's nice to show the people, especially you guys have been following it for a long time, especially overseas and stuff, that they can follow the builds and stuff, and big difference in the different alternative body styles. We've always tried to pick on that because, gosh, you're a step ahead if you do that.
Yeah.
If you do a halfway decent job on it, because that way when they're looking at it, they don't have this image in their head of 10 other ones that they just seen. So if you pull it off, it seems like, I really did that in the early days with the weird body styles to try to get ahead.
The Rambler.
Yeah, Rambler,
Yeah.
50 Buick, 60 Chevy.
Yeah.
I mean, great colors too, right, Bobby?
Alan, you want to tell them where Troy comes up with his colors?
That'd be appropriate for in here.
We talked about that.
We was out in Pomona several years ago, and Troy had a young kid at the time, and I told Troy, I said, every time you open a baby diaper, don't mean you got to clean the car like that.
He's right, unfortunately.
The other great thing, though, about that social media aspect and in the daily updates is the way y'all build the cars. When the car is finished, there's so much of it that you don't have an opportunity to see. It's just somebody there seeing that car as a finished product. I mean, your Model A last year was here in bare metal, and you really had an opportunity to see so many of the things that you did to that car. Now, if you had just debuted it this year as a finished painted car, you get a whole different perspective on it than you did last year in bare metal.
And you don't see the quality.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
see the
That
quality,
metal work.
when it's sitting bare metal.
Yeah.
To me, that shows you've done what you need to do.
That's the difference. I mean, these guys are all the same. I mean, a lot of the young guys, and I was in that, obviously in the same place years back, I would have definitely not brought anything in bare metal. But now we've learned that we got the right guys at the shop where you can, and that's really what separates us, I think, from the rest of them. I would say there's a lot better body men in this industry than our craftsmen at this point. We're all searching for metal guys or guys that can do that side of the job, and that's, I think, the big void in our industry right now.
That's something we've always tried to do in the shop, because you get a potential customer or an existing customer come in the shop and they see everything, that kind of quality when, it's a bare chassis or bare steel body, or you're doing the wiring or whatever, there's nothing covered up, nothing hidden.
It sells itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something you don't see very often, but even if you're not on the SEMA floor, through social media, through those updates, you can show a lot of that. You can show that car blown apart with the individual parts you're doing. So many of it gets hidden. I've been to y'all's shop, Mike, and y'all were doing that Cadillac for West last year. So much of that stuff got covered up once the car was finished, but the photos that you took during the day, each time as it was going, it was an opportunity to share what was going, and there was a whole lot of tricks that were hidden on that car that you could shoot those pictures during the build and post them, and guys could learn from them. And that's the point, that business is changing so much. Yes, sir.
What do you guys feel like is the current kind of main trend right now? What do you think is going to be the next kind of trend in custom building?
For me, can I speak?
Time's up.
Why are you looking at me? Because you're the senior guy, you get approval. No,
Give him permission.
for me, we're lucky enough to hire some young guys, and I think we're all there, but I'll tell you what, it's changing overnight. The scanning abilities and these young guys to be able to take and model everything, and actually, you're kind of nervous as a craftsman because these guys can take it, model it, machine fenders, machine the whole car. Let's face it, they can machine everything. The technology with all the SolidWorks and all the abilities for these, and honestly, it's way light years past me, and I think that's the future of this industry and the young people, and getting the young people involved, because the sky's the limit. I mean, they don't need a car anymore. They can build everything from nothing.
You do so much carbon parts for yours.
I'm
You
sorry?
do so many carbon
Yeah,
parts for
thank God
your
we got
cars,
carbon.
and you make a mold
Yeah.
You make a complete mold, and I was looking on the floor, yeah, you can scan and produce a 3D printed part that you can make that same mold from
Right.
without having all that
What's
handwork
scary with
involved.
that is,
You
that I
lose all the
think,
craftsmanship, you know,
Yeah.
of the metal work, which is,
Yeah.
and we all know that's going away. I mean,
the guys that.
there's not a lot of young guys getting into that.
Right, so, but the scary part of that part is you don't get to touch and feel it, like, say like Troy, and then they look at it and then they, let's cut that back off and do this. You're kind of committed in a, I don't know if it's a positive way where you actually, you spend a lot of money to get one thing and then you're like, holy shit, I wish that was back an inch or two. And that part, pretty tough.
Yeah, but see, we're, in our shop, it's totally different than that. We're more back to using what's there, modifying it a little
Yeah.
bit, reshaping it and stuff like that, because the stuff, and everybody's got their own style. You, Troy, Alan, all of us do it. And if I threw a carbon fiber part on my car, it would look like a wart on the end of your nose, probably. Because it wouldn't go along with the theme of the car. Where
Absolutely.
in your all's cars, it flows exactly what it should be. But I'm the old one, so I'm still using
Senior.
the old parts on the old cars.
Yeah, I don't think any of us up here really follow a trend of what's out there or predict what's coming. We kind of do our own thing and what we want to, and everybody's got their own style and way of doing things, and it works for each of us.
I think
We
that's-
all look at each other's stuff too. We've talked about that before. I can't do what you do, and you said exactly the same thing about you look at one of my cars, Jim, and you had said, I remember you said, "How do you do that?" And I'm thinking, "Gosh, that was easy. How do you do what you do?"
Yeah, I think everybody looks at everybody else's work with amazement.
I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing sitting up here with these guys.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point, though, that y'all bring up, that when you talk to younger builders or guys that are starting out, none of y'all followed what anybody else was doing.
No, and that's what the young
You did
builders
what you-
don't need to do. They need to do what you can do, and don't try to copy anybody else. Just, you can take their ideas and maybe incorporate it into your style, but get you a style, whether it's good or bad, and stick with it, and don't just bounce around.
I think that's where the social media side is hurt a little bit,
Dangerous.
because guys concentrate on so much. It's good to draw inspiration from it, but man, you go to some of these events we do in the summer and everything looks the same. So I think that's, we're not smart enough, I'm not smart enough to look at the internet and stuff, so we come up with weirder stuff just because we're not comparing it to nothing. And I think it works that way for us a little better.
I think everybody here could park their car out in a Walmart parking lot and, people could walk up and say, well, that's Troy's car, that's
Yep.
Bobby's car,
Yeah.
that's Alan's car.
And you got a 44 here,
I do.
and you have a 55 Plymouth, and you have a Mustang.
Mustang.
3 completely different cars, but as soon as you walk up to it, it's real clear it's an Alloway car. The stance, power wheel.
No, there's a red one here.
Yeah, I seen that, Bobby. What's the red?
I felt sorry for him. Sometimes you do that.
Christina,
It's a wrap.
I was walking out there and I seen that. I said, that Alloway, it's laser straight red.
the gal at PPG said she sent it, the can set black on it, and he just sprayed it.
Well, I mean, we all had influences, or I did at least when I was a kid, looking through all the magazines. And I was into Volkswagen, so some influence there that still carries over to some of the cars we build. But I mean, Pete and Boyd and Bobby and Barry Lobeck, and those guys were the ones that I was looking at when I was a kid.
You named everybody that was gone except me.
That's a lot of truth.
But now, but he's exactly right. It's those guys is the ones you looked up to. It really was. Whether you love him or hate him, and Little John and that group. And Lord, I remember when Troy, when the Pimp Buick was out, it flooded at Louisville.
At Louisville, yeah.
And you were there with Boyd, and I thought, geez, he's with Boyd.
Yeah.
And you were just a kid.
Boyd did a lot for me, definitely, in the beginning, and Jack Chisholm right over there also. I mean, Gray Baskerville, seen Angelo on the floor yesterday, Jim Petroni from Ford. There was a couple key guys that took me under my wing at 18 and really helped me big time. Posey also, that I just came in at the right time to the tail end of that group, and
Well, that was the same way with me, with Shapours.
yeah.
Shapours got me started, and you young guys, if you need help, ask. I mean,
Yeah.
we're open. I mean, we'll do whatever, or sometimes we may steer you in the wrong direction, but we don't mean to. But
I think that's what's missing a little bit today, and I don't know if that's
everybody
because-
thinks you're in competition with each
Right,
other.
right.
Back in the day, it wasn't. We were all, and we all still talk to each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
I mean, believe it or not, quite often.
You gotta, it has to be that way, and you gotta work, you know, with a lot of times the guys that can help you, they have their own shop, and that's the guys you gotta go to. I mean, Zach from Z-Rods is sitting, he came over and helped us wet sand and buff on the Model A. He's about an hour from us, and I think it's better to work with these guys that are by you. You don't see them as competition. I mean,
No, absolutely.
everybody's got their own customers, and they ain't saving nobody's life. You know, the more you work together, the better it is.
And that's like you just mentioned customers. Customers are such a key, taking care of your customers. Every one of y'all has repeat customers.
Yeah.
Guys that you've had
That's
very
the
few.
only way we can stay alive is repeat customers, and most of us has had
Work for
the
the same
same
people.
customer.
Yeah.
You know, so, and
That's a pretty
they come to each one of us for something different.
Yep.
The successful shops, that's a pretty common thread. You don't see them doing one car and then done with a guy. Most of the time, they're guys that stick with them.
That's the biggest, you know, people, you know, like for a resume or whatever. I mean, we've always worked for everybody twice at least. I mean, that's pretty good.
You don't have to retrain a customer.
That's amen on that.
If anybody has a question anytime, but again, feel free. I don't want to.
It was very interesting to hear you talk about craftsmanship. We are from Sweden. Okay, we are from Sweden. A friend of ours is restoring a future liner. You know, the big bus. Yeah. And they had some young guys with all the technique, you know, computers, everything. They made wonderful drawings. They had everything there. And then they needed craftsmanship because there was wooden frame.
Wooden structure.
Yeah. They had no clue to do that, how to do that. And so it stopped, actually. And they had to go to the old school shops to get the right people to do it. So now it's working again.
Well, you know, years ago, we used to, before there was the internet or whatever, of course it's still on their shop, but we used to.
But you do have a fax. Yeah,
We used to have to work with our hands. Now the kids today are on their phones, or on this, or on that, and you know, for us to do something, even, we went and worked on cars.
Yeah.
But now there's so much other for them to do as far as gaming and texting and all of that stuff that I think that's what's killing us. And the very few that we've got, like my youngest guy has been with me 17 years, but I've got a real young guy that, and I just said that, but we hired a guy that growed up down the street and watched the cars go up and down the road. And he came to me and wanted a job and didn't give it to him, then he wrote me a 2-page letter. He said, that's all I've ever wanted to do. Well, that's the guy, and I didn't know what he could do. He never had it, but that's the guys that you want to get into this deal that really, really want it. And never asked me how much we was going to pay him or nothing.
Really?
He just wanted to work. And
Was he locking them in down there, Ellen? You had a compound down there or what?
kind of, sort of.
I mean,
Can he pitch?
With what we do, if you don't have the passion for it, there's nothing else that's going to keep you doing it, especially if you're working on a car.
True.
What's kept you working the last few weeks, finishing everything you've had to do? You're wanting to make your customers happy, and you got a passion.
well, first off, I wanted to make myself happy.
Right.
And once I made myself happy, if my customer wasn't happy, I was screwed, because that was absolutely the best I could do.
And you're always, that's
And
one thing I know
that's
you always
what
talk
I have to be happy before he can be happy. I'm not at him or her to be happy. And if I'm not satisfied with it, then I hate to say this, but it really doesn't matter where he is or not, because I've got to satisfy myself. Once that's done, then if he's not, we've got a problem.
And you're going to be harder than that customer is, because you know every inch of that car.
I hope so. I hope so.
You know every inch of that car. That's what makes it different. And but you've always done too. You're always telling me that you spend money in the places it shows the most. You spend the time and the money in those places it shows the most.
I do. And we do a little different stuff than Troy and Alan and Jim do, but that's my style of building cars, you
And
know.
Mike.
And Mike. I didn't know he was here.
That Alzheimer's.
Sometimes.
Right, sometimes, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I know that you guys now have a business relationship with Preston. How is that, from a builder's perspective, has that made it any easier for you as a builder? Or do you have way too many people trying to tell you how to make decisions? Or they just say, look, just build us a car and tell us when it's done, as opposed to a customer that is going to take that car home and put it in the garage?
No, I mean, Prestone come to us and asked us to build them a car, and it was, I think, more for the marketing side of things, and they didn't really get involved at all. We pitched them a really ugly Javelin, and they actually bid on it, but, you know, we just thought because they wanted to get the point across that their products work in all makes and models, that what a better car than an AMX Javelin that was built with parts from every manufacturer, and plus the car had some history with Mike and I, but it's they got involved at all, you know, nothing. Matter of fact, they didn't even want their name on the side of the car at the end of it, and we did it anyway just because.
But I think, honestly, wasn't big and, you know, good guys that really didn't know the theme and saw Troy's stuff originally. But I think Troy's probably, in my mind, because I didn't know Bobby, but he was probably the first to get like Flowmaster or somebody to back him and to really put money behind a builder. And for us, I think everybody thinks the builders have as much money as the guys they're building the cars for. I really think that's
There's no doubt
myth
that.
out there. And for us to get a sponsor like that in any way, to help the builder out, to kind of fill in the blanks when you want to do a little more on a car that you're really not going to get paid for, they kind of help fill in those blanks. I think we could all attest to that. So that the sponsors are huge to us.
When you're using it because you believe it.
Yeah.
But
The other question I have is, you know, Bobby's done 3 cars this year. I know you guys did 3 cars this year. How do you know, a lot of these guys have small shops and building 1 car at a time. And even a 1 car build can be very frustrating as far as time management and parts and all that. How do you handle these multi-car builds and not tear your hair out?
Well, you schedule them, you have this going in, and all of them didn't start probably at the same time. Some may have passed the others, but if you've got a shop and you've got, like, we've got 7 guys, and to keep 7 guys busy, we need to have 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 jobs in there at the time, and all of them are in different stages. And then when they start to get finished, like, we roll them into the upholstery shop one behind the other, and hopefully we schedule. You know, I've got one guy that all he does is cut this color sand and buff. So I try to keep him something going. So they sort of fall in. Some years you'll have 3, some years you'll have 1, some years you may have 5. It's going on how they fall. But, you know, my cars are not as elaborate as Troy's and Alan's and Jim and Mike's. But so they're a little easier to do, I think. So.
Troy, you're always doing multiple cars too.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'd probably say it once a week. If I could do 1 at a time again like I used to, that's what we do, because you can really focus on it. And because I'm just an employee, I work every day. I don't do no office work. I don't answer the phone.
But you'll kill a
You got that
customer
right.
doing 1 at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Yeah.
trying to keep a shop.
It's not for
trying to keep
everybody.
a customer paying for the whole shop. You need to keep 4 or 5 so you can bill them a little bit different at a time, so you can keep cash flow coming in and not kill a guy. Because right there at the end, well, you know, we all have stopped and for the last month, and everybody's working on 1 car. The bills get pretty strong.
Some want it yesterday and some are patient. It just depends. And we've worked ourselves in a good position where we got the guys that, with every one of these guys up here, you know, everything we start, we finish pretty much. There's no stop it, you know, like, hey, okay, we had to stop and put it aside. So that's a real killer, because you get all these guys fired up on it. passions in it. Then you gotta get your legs chopped out. Now you're gonna start all over again, and you're 6 months into nowhere. So we're real good about that. We've worked a long time to get to that point. And I mean, we work on multiple cars at a time, but we'll be going along. And the nice thing, and the same with these guys, is the customers, all our core customers, know each other. So they're kind of like Bobby's talked about it a lot. They're all friends. So like we'll be going along on something, and then man, we'll have to stop in a month and a half to get ready for Bonneville, and everybody runs over to that stuff, and then you run back to the other stuff, and it's we're definitely. I'm not a good manager. We get it done, but it's that's still a learning curve I don't know we'll ever master.
You know, you may bring a car in, and it may be, you may get the car, but it may be 6 months before you work on the car, because we try to get enough pieces and parts in that we need, so when we start, we're not working for a week and then waiting, and you get enough stuff there that you can, when you start on the project, you can finish it. And like Troy said, we've got all of our customers know each other, and don't hide nothing from another customer, because that'll bite you as soon as it. Boyd always used to ask me, how do you have 3 or 4 customers together at a show? Well, keep those customers involved in each one of the other's projects. And sort of like when he was talking about social media and stuff, I thought about that. We don't do a lot of it, but you see the people that follows us, and one of my guys does Facebook. It makes them feel like the guys on Facebook that's following the build, it makes them feel like they're involved in the build, because they're wanting to see more and more and more as it comes out. And if you keep your customer, if you keep all of them involved in each other's project, then they'll be as interested in Joe's project is Jim's deal, you know, so, and it works out. That's how it's worked out with me. And then when you come to a show, you don't have to tend to them, because they'll tend to themselves over there with each other, so.
Ed here, I think, first, Joe.
Hey, on the business side of it, how do you bill your customers for materials, labor? How often do they pay?
Once a month, I do. I don't know how the other guys do, but my billing is, oh gosh, it's awful. It's a scratch piece of paper, and sometimes I'll call and say this, and I've never signed a contract in my life with any of the customers, and I've got one customer sitting over there that I've never sent a bill to. We've built 5 or 6 cars to, and I've never sent him a bill. I've called him and told him how much it was, and I hope he never gets them and totals them up, because we'll have a problem.
And you still do all your own billing?
I do.
You do all your parts ordering, all your billing?
I do all of it.
What about parts markup and material markup?
Oh, the customers are here.
That varies a lot.
A 10 or 15% markup is reasonable, and generally we generally get a deep deal in them, and I can generally sell my customer a part cheaper than he can buy the part for. So that's how I justify it. I mean, you don't want to, you know, we buy enough from people and we get enough sponsorship that usually we get a deep enough deal that what we do charge the customer for the part, 9 times out of 10, he couldn't go buy it himself for that. So, and then if you say you're selling it to him at cost, then you're lying, because you've got to make it. If we're not making money, we're not in business. It's simple as that.
The one thing that really is where we've tried to get better at, and it's tough to track, is all the consumable stuff. You know, Rolox, argon, what have you. So
bolts, nuts.
Yeah, my wife, I didn't make any money until I brought her, and she takes care of all that. And so it's like, I think I don't know what the exact number is, if it's 5% of the labor hours or whatever, as we've come up with a formula to try to.
Shop supplies.
Yeah, shop supplies, because gosh, that'll really get you.
We do that a little bit different. I mean, I don't discount the parts to the customer. I've got somebody full-time that takes care of parts, ordering them, whatever problems there are, and that takes care of that person in the shop. I mean, if I sold it for what my cost was, then I couldn't pay him every week to do his job.
But they can't afford to pay you
No.
to spend the time doing that.
I'm out.
You've got to be out in the shop.
I don't do the billing. Angel takes care of that. I look over everything. At the end of the month, I make my guys take notes every day on what they've accomplished. They punch in on the job, and I go over that weekly, and then again at the end of the month. And other than that,
my guys turn in a worksheet at the end of the month. end of the week, with everything, with their materials and all of that stuff on it. And I'm the one that looks over that, and I'll justify whether, hey, did it take 40 hours to do this or not? And I'm my biggest enemy, because sometimes I'll cut it. But then again, you cut it a little bit and you got car after car after car you're building for that same guy, the turtle will win the race sometimes, you know. It always will if I'm in it for the long haul, not the short deal.
We do daily sheets every day because you work on a lot of different ones every day, and we can't, you know, I can't remember what you did the following day, and you try to track it, and that's good because if there's questions from the customer, it's easy. Hey, here you go, and you back it up with pictures. And Bobby's, you got to be honest. That's the bottom line, because if you don't, it'll catch you. And I left the door open for you about you never made any money till you brought Angie in, and she's here. My wife's not even here.
She does a good job taking that off of me. I mean,
Angie, you can come work for me. I know you're out there somewhere. I'll give you credit.
when we're pushing to get a job finished, you know, if we're working 7 days a week, I'm terrible about stopping and doing my part of that job. I mean, and that doesn't do good either, because now you're waiting 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, before you're invoicing a customer or calling for money, and that doesn't make things work well either.
There's no doubt you have to make money on your parts, because at the end of the day, you got to deal with that part. And let's face it, you have problems in this business.
Yeah.
And you know, they're not going to go back to the guy you got the part from. They're going to come to you. So you have to make sure you can survive. But
The other thing that comes to that too is y'all are so good at, every one of you, that bears talking about, is you're loyal to your suppliers, and your suppliers are loyal to you. You know,
You've got to be.
You got a part,
And you can't use the product just because somebody gave it to you. The product's not any good. I mean, if it's on our truck or on one of our cars, the reason it's on there because I believe in that. And
you know how it works. You know what you have to do to make it work and all of that. And then when it's Friday night and you need a part, I'm gonna tell you, I've gone to FedEx in the evenings to get parts out for guys that like that, because that's one of those things. If you've got suppliers that are loyal to you, when you need something,
They're going to take care of it.
you build a relationship with the suppliers, just like he's looking at me because I've called him 1,000 times and says, I've got to have, I mean, and it maybe have a part failure that you're doing, and you know, I worked in a dealership for 16 years. I was service manager and shop foreman, and they would never tell you to put a new part on. They'd always say put a known good one on. Well, a known good one is something that you've put on that works, you know, not a new one, because you always said my shop is what?
that's part of the triangle, isn't it, John? The part's going to fail. It fails in northeastern Tennessee. I'll tell you, I don't know what it is.
And every time we have a failure, that's the first time that part has ever failed in its life.
Amen, right?
Yeah. Well, we've never had that to happen. Never seen that before.
But that is an important part of it. You get a good relationship. I mean, and I'm a supplier to all these, and they're friends. They're my friends as much as they are anything else. And I mean, whatever they need, we're going to make it happen. It doesn't matter. We make it happen. I mean, John at Classic Instruments is the same way. And that's something, as you're building your business, have a relationship with your suppliers. I mean, you know, you've got a sales guy you deal with at each company, and you get to know that guy, and
Do not
rely on
jump
him for
around.
advice.
Don't jump around.
Right.
Find somebody, find a good product and stick with it. And I have changed products over the years, and a time or two it hasn't been because I wanted to. It was you were sort of forced into it because they couldn't supply what you needed, so you had to go someplace else. But you know, I've got a plater that I've used since 1982, and is he the best? I don't know. He's awful good with me, but I can pick up the phone and I can get, because I'm a repeat customer to him, just like my guys that we're building cars for, they're repeats. So when somebody else wants a car built, we got to make sure we're taking care of the ones that, as the old saying goes, we dance with the people that took us to the dance, and that if you'll remember that, it'll work. I'm telling you, it'll work. Sometimes it may not be the quickest way it'll happen, but in the long run, it'll pay off. It has for me anyway.
Same with customers.
Yes.
Same with customers. Just because a new customer shows up, you don't push the guy that's been keeping you busy all these years. You don't push him aside.
And sometimes, and I know some shops that has wanted to, and you get that, as they say, you get that new broom in there that's going to really sweep clean, and you really want it. But your old one that's over there in the corner, you better not forget about him.
I know in the back, a guy had been waiting there.
Thank you for doing this. Sorry. And thanks for taking my question. This may be a loaded question, but I was curious if you all had a unicorn car that you always wanted to build, but maybe never did for whatever reason. And in that same vein, if a customer came to you just as a bank account and said, build me your masterpiece, your Mona Lisa, produce your Dark Side of the Moon, what would that be?
That's every one that I do. I do the same thing with everyone. That's exactly what.
Every next car.
Yeah, every next car. And we want, and please don't take us wrong, but in the shop, we're fortunate enough that if I don't like it, if the guys don't like it, I'm not going to build it just for the money of building it, because you're there with that car, and you've got to want to finish it. And the guys at the shop's got to be, if they're interested in it, boy, it works out pretty good. And just because it's a money job, then that's really not the car to build.
They take so long, and you can only build so many anyway, and you're judged by your last one all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't do it that way, unfortunately. You gotta.
Sometimes if you're starting off, you may have to, but when I started off, if I didn't want, I'd build something for myself. And me and you've always talked about that for years. I build a car for myself. I'm working on 3 for myself right now. I love it that much, but it's after hours. It's late of the nights, weekends, and it's that and softball's about it, isn't it, Troy?
Softball first, yes. And Bobby's built more cars for himself than we've built. Somehow. I think you get 48 hours down there in a day, Bobby.
They just work a lot slower there.
Yeah.
And Mike and Jim, y'all do the same thing. You every year you usually build something for yourself, and it's usually sold before you ever get to enjoy it.
Well, I want it too, and you see everybody else getting it, and why can't I have it? So we're the ones doing it. So if you love it that much, and all of us have cars,
Alan, same way. Yeah.
Problem with us is who gets it when it's done. It's like we're selling it because I know he'll tear it up and I'll have to fix it.
We shared a Gran Torino when I was 15 and he was 16, and I never even got to use it because it was totaled out by the time I got my license.
I think the story's coming out now, Rick. I think they must have been fighting over a car, and Mike shoved Jim down on that ramp.
That may have been it.
Yeah. I did have a 69. I went in the Navy, I had a 69 GTO
Oh
convertible.
no, here we go.
I came home from leave one time and went in the basement, and car's gone. Jim, where's my convertible? I sold it. Where's the money? I spent it. So that's why we don't share it.
I got even.
This guy here has been good.
Yes, sir.
We mentioned sponsorships. Now, what would be your advice be as far as obtaining sponsorships? And is there too much to ask or too little to ask?
I wish I knew that question. First guy that loses, first guy that speaks loses. Really, you just start out and do what you do, and hopefully you can see one of them that approach you. Like I said, I really don't have that. Honestly, Jack, Troy's dad, was probably a huge help to us. I mean, from giving us, we're not like Bobby, in Wisconsin. If you would do work for somebody, say, and you don't have a work order or contract, you could lose up to 3 times of what you can be. I'd love to work with a handshake, but I honestly, those days, he's old enough, he's got the customers. We don't have that, but we wouldn't even recommend that. I mean, we've seen a few shops up by us had to close the doors because there's professionals that will go after guys that just really are honest guys that just want to do what they do and do everything with a handshake because that's how mom and dad taught them. But it's a different world today, and Jack helped us out. He gave us.
Troy gave us your contract.
And we passed it on. And we're not saying this is the gold standard, but just use it, have somebody look at it,
and what they're saying is probably the correct way to do it. I'm just old school, and I look you in the eye and shake your hand when I say that's a done deal with me, and that's the way. If we did a seminar Tuesday morning, they were talking about how the internet brought everybody in, but if you're going to build a car with us, I don't care where you live, you're going to fly in we're gonna meet, we're gonna talk, we're gonna look, and I'm gonna fill you out and see if, we're gonna be married for a year or two, and we've got to get along. And if you're on the same page as me, then let's go. But if you're not, then, and you can fill it out. I mean, I've had customers that's been a little issue over, but if you just be straight with them, generally it works. But I've been lucky. You're right, you could get your butt in the noose on that.
Now, Mike and I talked about that a good bit in Columbus this year, and he was asking me what I do, and kind of like Bobby, and it may not be the best
Well,
thing
we're
to do,
actually in a
but
different
I've
part. I
always-
mean, from where we're from, I mean, nothing against anything else, but at the South, I mean, it's always been like that. I mean,
Trust
that's
somebody
the way
and they
that,
prove you different.
you're exactly right. And we've been proved different
Yeah.
time or two, haven't we? But still yet.
On the sponsor thing, I mean, just honesty, whatever you can get, what they approach you with, you take it and thank them, and then consistency is the thing, right? Use the product,
Yes.
fulfill your commitments to them, and then keep coming back, keep coming back. That's how I started my shop. I built 3 of my own cars. And Jack back there and Rick, they helped me from day one. MSD, Flowmaster, I've been with them 25 years, all them guys, and never asked. Then then once you get established, I don't ask. They got to make money,
Right.
So, but just being the consistency, the repetition,
And
every year coming back there and being seen and having the right attitude and present yourself right, and it'll pay. The rest will take care of itself.
The people that's giving you product or you're wanting product from, they need something out. It's got to be a two-way street. It just can't be all you. So they need something out of it too. So if it's a paint deal, then do the best you can do is paint. Use their paint, take it to shows and get it out there, get it in front of people and tell everybody you've got PPG paint or DuPont paint or whatever, just promote what that's what we do. We promote what we like and what we're using. And it's paid off. I mean, it's
That's a lot different today than it was 25 years ago when I was starting. I mean, there wasn't internet or social media, so I didn't know anything about sponsoring. I never asked anybody for anything, and I still don't. If I'm using any particular vendor, I want to pay for that part, and just like anybody else should. And I've had companies ask me to use their parts before, and we went through this several years ago doing a giveaway car for NSRA. I mean, we'd go to all of our normal suppliers for everything that we use day to day. There was a few pieces that we didn't have a normal supplier for. They were the only ones that we had any complaints out of, for what coverage they got or didn't get. And I won't do that anymore. I won't use somebody's product that, no matter what they're wanting us to do.
I'll just add from a manufacturer's standpoint on that, it's like Bobby says, just like y'all have to make money to stay in business, as a manufacturer, we got to make money to stay in business too. I mean, it's that simple. We got employees to pay, we have raw material to pay for, we have everything else too. And unfortunately, our suppliers won't take exposure bucks. We talk about that when we pay a bill or something like that, we get, but we got exposure on this. And like Bobby said, all these guys we've got long-term relationships with. If things work out and you're taking care of us, we're going to take care of down the line. But if you're just out there shopping as a young guy for whoever's going to give you the free parts this time, it's not a great long-term solution.
Yeah, well, there's this little cute story that in the air business, people was, this is how you stay loyal, but people will come up to you then and want you to use their product. And there was a guy on the phone one day that was, anyway,
a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago, that wanted me to use a certain air conditioning deal. And I agreed with him and all that, and I said, yeah, that would be fine as long as Rick Love tells me it's okay. And that was the...
That's exactly what you did.
Yeah, I did, and it was a competitor of Vintage Air, and I said, as long as Rick tells me it's okay to use it, I'll use it. And that ended that.
It wasn't a good idea.
No.
The relationship with the manufacturers is crucial. I'll give you a great example. Being honest with them and working with them for all these years, John from Classic had a guy up in his area call and was wanting to have a Corvette built, and was not in this industry, wasn't a good guy, show guy, just wanted to have a nice 62 Corvette built. And John recommended to us, we built the guy a complete car off a recommendation from a manufacturer for us. That's happened a couple times, so that's how really important it is in the big picture of things.
Yeah, it's big picture. It's hard when again, when everybody starts out small and everybody struggled, and it's hard and you're trying to do everything you can to make money. And everybody will help you as much
And it
as
doesn't happen overnight. Just keep at it, because if you really want it, just keep at it, because everybody's wanting it to happen like that. If it happens, if it's that easy, then it's not worth having. It's really not. You've got to work for it.
You had a question?
Yeah, to a layperson, not that I'm a car layperson, but let's just say you talked about styles earlier. Give us some samples of, because like as I walk through I understand, the guys from New York have a style, Northern California has a style, Southern California has a style. Detroit.
California? Bobby, they do think California?
There's build cars out there.
So what would, when you say that you guys all have a different style, so if I was just walking through and looking at some of these cars, what would be those features, those nuances that I would be able to pick up to distinguish Troy's car from Bobby's car from Michael Jim?
Bobby's are black and chrome.
You're a quick call.
That was easy.
Yeah. Mine has littler tires on the front than they do the back. And mine are real true colors. They're black.
All colors.
Yes, all colors together. All colors.
I think that's a tough question. I think that we don't even realize we have a style in a way. It's just you do what you do. So I can tell you Troy's style and Bobby's style, but to tell you what our style is, you don't really look at yourself as having a style. At least I don't feel.
But you do.
Yeah.
Trust me,
But
you do. Everybody. You do, and whether you know it or not, and everybody knows it. You're underestimating yourself.
But when somebody asks you that, it's hard to answer.
It's hard to put it in words, but if you've looked at a bunch of cars and said you could go look at that 55 Plymouth we talked about, that Mustang and Bobby's 40, even as a layperson, if I took you to look at those 3 cars, and then look at 5 others, you would know those 3 cars came out of his shop.
Alan has probably a more similar taste of what we do. You do. You like black too, don't you?
Just a little bit.
But this on the other end over here, who knows what comes
Creative side.
Green.
I think they just pour
Creative
stuff
sides
together.
over here. I think one big thing is hopefully like our stuff, for instance, because the Rad Rides name was because land speed cars, standing mount cars, whatever. The one thing we haven't built yet is a Baja vehicle, which we're going to hopefully. But hopefully you recognize it by the quality. But the key thing we've kind of learned, and we went one way in the beginning. I had some really ridiculous colors early on, and did a style of stuff, airbrush trim and all this, and then we kind of just killed that. Then we started looking at the car a little bit and letting it tell you what it wanted a little bit. We've done spoke wheels, white walls, wood grain. You got to really tailor to each car. That way it's more timeless.
But you're more detailed. You can look at your car. You can look at the engine compartment of your cars, and it's absolutely phenomenal. The detail that you put into those colors a little iffy, but the detail.
You're the same though, Bobby. Don't sell yourself short.
The other thing that y'all have in common, and the best builders always have in common, is the cars work.
Absolutely.
You don't see somebody pushing one of your cars in somewhere or anything
Don't
like that.
say that. No.
But the cars work.
Don't jinx us.
The cars work. They're a real car. They're not one of those customs you saw years ago that the guys had cinder blocks in the trunk and all of that to get the stance they wanted, everything. But you find the better builders, the cars work. They do what they're supposed to do.
Don't get me wrong, we do have our problems.
Yeah, I'd rather wreck it than wipe it off. Bottom line.
Well, we've all drove cars. I know Bobby used to when he was younger, but.
Yes, sir.
Like one of my big customers just turned 200,000 miles on a car that we done for him 7 years ago. That's helped us build better cars because it shows us what's going to break. It's helped him actually with his products as well.
And there's better parts available now too. You make some of your own suspension components. Jim, y'all make your stuff. Troy and Bobby. There's better parts available to work with what you do. So
we don't make them twice, though, Rick. We're not real smart.
That's true. That's true.
We only do it one time.
Yes, sir. You had a question.
I'm kind of a individual builder and stuff, and I was wondering how exotic. I keep adding stuff and adding stuff. When do you know when to say when?
We haven't figured that out yet.
When you're, yeah, we're the worst. When you're about 85% of what you think you should do, I think. Thank God there's shows or something to build for, because I don't think you're ever feel like you're done with them, but thank God you were done with them. At least for us, we've always had that problem of knowing when to stop.
We're definitely guilty of that.
Well, you learn your lesson too, like on doing, like, wow, let's, put 9 turbos in something or whatever, right? Some ridiculous thing you come up with in your head. And you got to have your butt kicked a few times, then you learn. I'll give you an example. A little Model A, we were messing around with some, putting some black in the clear as like a tri-coat to give it a different look. And man, it had a neat look, but
Just keep putting more in.
I shouldn't have said black. But then the reality side of it, when the experience side comes in going, you know what, 2 things, it could be blotchy and we'll never be able to repair it. So we went away from it. So, 15 years ago we'd have done it. Then you'd have had a mess somewhere. So it's a little bit of it is learning the hard way for us.
You'll learn on each project too. If I look back on the cars that we'd done years ago and how much they've actually got, my cars have got simpler. And because I was trying to overdo too much back then to try to
Stand up.
some kind of wow thing, and then
We're all culprits of that.
Yeah. Other questions? Yes, sir.
How's it going, guys? My name's Julio. I'm from Fresno. I own Julio's Pinstriping. I looked up to all you guys growing up when everybody was into the basketball players and the football players. They're like, who are these guys? They didn't know what I was talking about. But thank you for being here and taking our questions.
So thank you so much for being here.
I'm 35, so I'm a young guy considered compared to you guys. But my question well, I look up to you. Out of respect.
I'm glad you included everybody.
Out of respect, I look up to you. I know you guys, I think I'm old, but you guys look at me as a kid. So my question is, what do you guys do to make yourself stand out from the rest, to put yourselves at the top? Because that's my goal.
But we're not at the top.
Well, you are. You may not think so, but we're sitting here and you're sitting there. So what do you think you guys did? Because this stuff's worldwide, and there's hundreds of builders. There's lots of people that want to make it successful, but you guys,
Just keep at
what's
it,
your
keep at
recipe?
it, and do it, and do it, and do it. And just
Do
keep
your own
showing up.
thing. I mean, it's
Keep
just
showing up.
everybody up here does their own thing. And
Yeah.
I think real simple. Let your actions speak louder than your words.
yeah.
I met this guy
Big
here,
problem.
what was you, 21?
21.
21 when I met him, and he's done exactly, we've talked ever since you were 21. I mean, never have had
I
a
wore you out
problem.
for a while calling and asking questions and still do
Yeah.
sometimes.
Now I have to call him and ask him because he's passed me up, and I'm just still, I'm pedaling as hard as I can to keep up with these guys. But when I won the Riddler in '85, and
With your own car?
With my own car, and nobody knew me from Adam. I mean, you just kept at it. You don't try to be somebody, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You just keep working at it, and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I don't feel like we're all fortunate because we're getting to do what we want to do, and sitting here answering questions from you all, it's humbling, it really is.
But I think any car you ever thought was going to be the one that put you on top. You just did the best you could with every car.
We did
you
a
built.
fiberglass car for a few years, that Boyd told me never would work, and he said, you're gonna go to Tennessee with duct tape and Bondo and fiberglass and do this. I remember that, and put truck tires on it. He said, you're gonna do that, you're gonna put truck. I said, yeah, but I said, I think it'll never work, it'll never work. Well, it worked, but it was the right time. And somebody asked earlier, what's the next new thing? Oh gosh, I wished I knew that. If you knew that, we'd be the dudes, wouldn't we? Yeah. Because I don't know, these young guys are coming up with the next new things. We're looking at them. I'm just hoping I can stay around long enough to see what the next new thing is.
Yes, sir. Jim.
One of the things you talked about last year was, especially with new builders, how you qualify customers, whether or not you're going to do a big build for them. Jim and Mike, can you tell them what you do? That was a pretty cool trick.
Actually, there's a lot of people out there that just call and
Well, before you answer, I don't know if you could hear, we didn't get the mic there, but he was asking how you qualify customers, how you go about qualifying a customer.
this may seem a little weird, but you get people that just call, and I can imagine these guys on the end that went through a lot worse than we have, but man, they want to tell you their life stream, and what they want to have built, and they want 6 of these and 4 of them, and Troy's building me one. I don't know how many times I had. Bobby's building me one, Alan's building me 4, Troy's building me 2, and they really want to wear you out. So you really quick, you say, why don't you send me your information, give me your name, we'll send you a packet. So as soon as they give us their address, we'll Google Earth them. And really, it's bad, but we Google Earth to see, for all what they wanted, they better have one big place. So really, Google Earth has been a pretty good thing.
Yeah, you go up and down the street.
Yeah, you just. So I don't know if these guys have ever done it, but.
Bobby, does your place even show up?
They're working their way down that way, Rick. I can tell you US is big.
They'd have to push the sheep out of the way. But with that being said, I can honestly tell you, you never, ever judge a book by its cover. Because I've made that mistake.
George Petit show you that view.
Amen.
Oh, boy.
I think a lot of it is like when we get calls, one of the first questions, and my old man was pretty brash. If they got through him, you're the real deal.
You had to get Jack first.
Yeah, so if you got through him, you're pretty good. But we ask him, have you ever had a car built? At the stage where we're at now, and if they haven't, then we're probably not the right place. Not being judgmental, but it's we're fortunate to have guys that were repeat customers, and like Bobby said, they understand the process and the thing. And as long as you're busy enough to do that, and never put all your apples in one basket. I mean, I could have probably done it with all of us. Could have done it with George, and so on over the years. But that's
You'll
just a
make
good
some
question
ads
to ask.
that too, because some of them
will.
Well, then it must not be if it's your way or the highway or whatever, and it's not that. It's just if I don't feel comfortable with you, I'm definitely not going to do it. And there was a guy here that walked up, and I listened to him talk, and he's a friend of mine, and I looked over at them and I said, I can't build a car for that guy. I mean, you just get that feeling that I can't do it. Now, he might have been great, but I just didn't get that warm fuzzy from
Gut
it.
tells you no.
Yeah, it does. Your gut, follow your gut. Your gut will tell you what to do.
And they got to be hands-on too a little bit. You got to understand for the level. I think we're all doing stuff now. They have to have been hands-on in their life and understand. If you're talking about a part, they understand it a little bit. Otherwise, you spend the entire time talking about everything and you never get the car done.
And what we build is hot rods. If they come up in a new Mercedes or something like that and thinking these cars that we build are going to be that, it's not going to be that.
I just went through that a couple of months ago. We had a customer that waited for nearly 2 years to start on a project, and I made him come in and spend a couple of days with us. We'd already spent time with him at Bonneville and other events, so I knew that he was somebody I would want to be around and work for, but I made him come in and drive some cars because he'd never had an old hot rod, and I felt like once he drives one, it's not going to meet his expectation no matter how good we do, and I wouldn't build a car for him after that.
Yeah. Realistic expectations is a big deal. Now, if these guys, a $20,000 Malibu is going to drive better than most hot rods anymore, and they've got to have realistic expectations.
Well, you build a car for somebody that's not a car person, and that's a good example Alan gave is, whatever you drive today, whether it's the cheapest car that OE makes or the most expensive, they're all airtight, they're nice, right? Everything works. So you get a guy that's not a car guy and you build him a car, and they're expensive, obviously, no matter what level you do them. So now he's thinking, well, it costs that much money, it should be better than this Mercedes I'm driving or whatever, and it will never be. I mean, we're a couple guys in an alley, getting compared to an OE, It makes you respect the OE a lot. We try to emulate him a lot mechanically in what we do. Absolutely. The more he can do that, the less you got to shorten that checkoff list to come in things that'll bite you, and then you start, like Bobby said, building. You learn to build simpler stuff or use more OE parts, and just in certain areas, and it helps.
Just for me, if you do get a call from a guy named George is a good name for to build a car for. There's more than one George you want to build a car for. So it's a good start if the guy says, my name is George. Take the call.
Something else I've started doing with new customers is making them go to some events with us and hang out, and because like Bobby said, I mean, usually if you do a good job, you're going to be married to him longer than a year or two, because you're going to have that car back in the shop servicing or repairing and building more cars for them. So you got to have somebody that you enjoy their company, and when the phone rings, you don't put them off or not look forward to seeing them or being around them or talking to them.
And for you young builders, we're all, like at the major shows, we're all right there together. I mean, within talking distance of each other, and our customers go from one trailer to the other trailer and threaten to leave me to go to Cleveland, to go to Allen. We have to bring them back, and then we have to smooth them over. It's a dance, isn't it?
Yeah. Got time for one more, because these guys got some commitments, so they've been waiting in the back there, so. Mike?
Yes, I'd like to hear each one of you quickly talk about the car that put you on the map. Was it something that you built out of your own pocket, or did the customer come first? It's kind of a chicken or egg question. So maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Want to start, Bobby?
It was probably my car. It was probably the car that I built. I built a black coupe with some flames on it, and I still have it, and I got a lot of magazine coverage out of it, and that sort of got us rolling. It's probably that car.
Mine would have been my first car that I built for myself. I mean, I didn't have any customers, so the only way to get customers is to build something that I thought would attract customers, and that car got a lot of attention with magazine articles and introduced me to guys like Bobby and opened up some doors that would, I mean, I couldn't have a customer without that car. So
I built 3 for myself in the beginning to get my business going. I was still working for my dad as a mechanic at the time, and met Gray Baskerville from Hot Rod when I was 16, probably 17, and kind of got under his wing, and he really helped me get going. And I did 3 for myself, so I think consistently, like over a period of 4 years, was in Hot Rod magazine a lot, and they were really catering to me as a young guy, and that really got me going. And then 95, I built a Sniper for George, and that kind of thing showed the rest of the people that we were building cars. That was the first car I built for somebody else, and that was substantial. So I think after that, it kind of, that was a pretty big project for a small shop, and it panned out nice. We unveiled it out here for the 50th anniversary of Hot Rod magazine. The timing couldn't have been any better, and it really opened the doors.
Yeah, but your first group was that 60 Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Mint green
Yeah,
60
that was
Chevy, and nobody was building those at those times.
We drove it out here in 1990 on the first power tour. There was 7 of us, and Gray rode with us. That was a great time, and parked out front when there was nothing out front here. Things sure have changed.
Well, there's no doubt Mike and I have had plenty of cars growing up. You know, the one he really wanted to do was the GTO I sold, but no, I would say the car, I mean, for us, it was, you know, we all started somewhere. I think it would have to be that reactor Mustang that we did for Doug Hoppy. I mean, he walked up to us at the Columbus Good Guys show and said, I want to build a car, and we thought it was awesome. I mean, it was like, wow, somebody's actually going to give us a chance, and I think that was the car for us. But
I think you had that red Mustang convertible there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I think we're like Troy, and everybody builds their own first to get noticed, but it's the one where somebody asked you to build, and pretty big high that day.
Yeah, that was a fun part of our history of us.
I know a couple of these guys got scheduling commitments, so if you give them a great big hand for taking time out.
Hey y'all, make sure you subscribe to this channel and visit ScottieDTV.com for an easy way to search the hundreds of videos I have posted. Either click the link in the description or the one at the end of this video.